Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Open Source episode 24. And we've got returning in a fancy suit, Rory. Say hi, Rory. And Mark Simpson's with his lovely pets.
Slightly underdressed, but hey, everybody.
Excellent. So, Mark, how about you kick it off and tell us what is it in the news that you found interesting this week?
Yeah, so I'll get to the background in a short while, but what I found interesting, I liked, was the announcement yesterday of IBM and R3's partnership at CorderCon, the virtual CorderCon, which if you haven't checked out, the still recordings is worth looking at. So IBM and R3 announced that they're working together with new options in terms of blockchain technology. So R3's launched a new open beta program, and they're going to bring their Corder Enterprise to the IBM Linux One platform. And again, that will be via hybrid cloud. And it will start on November the 2nd. So only not next week, week after. And the program will be available in IBM Cloud and on-prem Q1 next year. Again, I think it's really quite interesting when you also add to that the IBM Services is expanding its R3 Center of Excellence. And again, Jason Kelly, who's one of the GMs at IBM around their blockchain practice, has explained that this is in response to customer demand. So people want to see more of this. This is the reference Jason jokingly made to dogs and cats, saying lots of people might view that as really these guys have been kind of battling on these things, and I've certainly worked with clients on pitches where both have been presenting their options, and they've both competed hard. But these guys have been speaking for a long time, and it's a lot of drive. So not only that Jason and David Rutter, the CEO of R3, have been speaking for years, they're good friends, but for me, IBM isn't stupid. It's an organization with lots of divisions: hardware, software, hosting, professional services. So I think they recognized this is needed, and I think it's a really positive step. And I think it's great that we'll not only see greater choice, but I think we'll see greater cross-network interaction. And I think that will extend as well across public and private. So I'm really pleased to see that happen.
No, it really is. And I think it is, as you said, it's a very smart move by IBM, because at least from a Hyperledger Fabric standpoint, they've been a bit in a retreat in the financial industry to Corda. They're still strong in the supply chain, but it's about what the clients want. There's also, I think, a tech perspective, which is interesting, because Richard Brown, the CTO of R3, was talking a lot about Conclave. And I believe this Linux platform cloud version is going to enable Conclave to scale. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out.
Yeah, that's a great example, actually, because Todd was saying, Todd from R3, that the tests they've been running, performance has been great as well. Yeah. So it was really convenient. And these are two organizations bring a tremendous amount of expertise. So it's great to see them collaborate on that. I think the whole industries, and I say industries, will benefit, as I said. And why not have this connected networks underpinned by different technologies, but the interoperability is there. So yeah, really, really exciting stuff.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Rory, tell us, what is it in news that you found interesting this week?
Actually, that was a really good one. That's very interesting. Mine is Ebru Chetin's intervention on the courage of the pioneer, and I posted that on our Insureblocks platform earlier this week, and it went on to LinkedIn too. And this is a young woman from Turkey operating in our relatively conservative industry, and she's obviously come up against lots of glass ceilings, but she hasn't let that stop her. She's not complaining about it. She's just sharing her experiences and motoring along with that huge smile of hers. So well done, Ebru. I'm a big fan, and I wish your social startup a lot of success, and thank you for taking such an active part in our community.
Yeah, I know, you're completely right. I mean, she takes care. She faces challenges head on, and with panache, with that smile and professionalism. So yeah, she's definitely going to go very far. So thank you for bringing that up, Rory. Mark, what is it in the news that made you wonder?
Yeah, and just while I flip, because I think, again, the link to Ebru's piece, and I know we'll put the video in, but it's 157 seconds of golden insight that is well worth getting hold of. So my wonder is in response to an annual survey that Salesforce have been running, and they've surveyed over 20,000 what they call global citizens, and they've been looking at their attitudes and perceptions around the state of our world and the future of work, and in particular around COVID-19. So it's part of their global stakeholder series, Future of Work. And a few things that just struck me, and again, the analysis is great. It's really dynamic. You can go and it's got a Tableau report. The state of the world. So 84% of people believe that income equality is not improving. 63% believe the role of technology in society is improving. But only 20% believe that access to job opportunities is improving. Only 33% believe that gender equality is improving. And only 27% believe that access to education is improving. And there are lots of others that make, on first blush, maybe grim reading. But as Stephen Covey used to write about in terms of the donut, you have this outer ring, the area of concern, and what can you do in the inner ring, your sphere of influence. And Covey's created lots of new pressures, but I would also say opportunities, and they're very specific and they're very personal to many of us. But what I see as a common theme in all of this research and lots of other things is the things that really underpin it. So trust is a common issue, and it underpins the relationships, interactions, and confidence. And the real question around that is, can technology help the trust deficit? Now, in my experience, it can, but as long as it's aligned to the stakeholders and not just from this interoperability experience that we talk about when we think about technology. So does it really line up with our values, with our beliefs, with our behaviors? And the current crisis has really stimulated many of us re-examining our beliefs, our behaviors, and we're certainly aware of when our values are breached, and particularly around trust. So what I'm really wondering is, in this rush to digital, how much intention, and I use the word intention, and attention will be focused on the stakeholder from not just a surface level in terms of how do we want people to behave, but also from the deeper belief and behavioral aspects. So that's my deeper wondering this week.
Very good. And it reminds me 2 points. One is the World Economic Forum has, those nifty little videos on LinkedIn. And one of them was talking about how automation is going to cut jobs, but also is going to create actually a whole lot more. And that kind of reminded me of the internet and the fear around that. But regarding, our values, and I think that's where it becomes interesting, is when you look at AI. AIs are going to be making a lot of sets of decisions, but ultimately AIs are programmed by a certain type of individual and does not reflect global values. And that is a danger that we're going to have to assess, in due course, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Rory, tell us, what is it in the news that made you wonder?
Well, I guess it's not totally unlinked to that trust piece, mine. It's around, I guess, the importance of building that trust and how you build it and what happens when you don't. So I saw an interesting piece in the newspaper this morning about self-driving cars. So the UK government wants to be at the forefront of adoption. And my guess is that they're probably looking for some quick wins at the moment. But anyway.
Brexit, yes.
So they published a white paper saying, okay, we can get automatic self-driving cars on our motorways by 2021, next year, right? And the ABI, so the Association of British Insurers, respond saying that would be quite wrong. And there are good reasons for their response when you look at this. It's to do with human behavior, and that it would take far longer for someone watching Netflix in the car to take back some kind of control in the time required to avoid hazards. So, my wonder is, what is the pathway to test that human response time in that very important social movement? Because frankly, the insurers have the power to stop automated driving technology, put a halt on it. And it reminds me of a question people always ask me when I go around talking about smart contracts in insurance, which is, when are we going to see widespread adoption? And when will our contracts start to administer themselves, essentially? And I always say it's hard to predict. You know perfectly well that at the moment, any moment, someone from risk management could come along and object, and they might have very good reasons. So the path of adoption is not always smooth, and in the long term, that's probably a good thing. Going back to Mark's observation about tech people not always being a typical person, you do need adoption to be done by a broad cross-section of the community who might all find something different, which should delay implementation.
That's a really interesting point as well, and the whole motor thing is had me wondering a lot, because it's estimated that 98% of road traffic incidents are as a result of human error. Yet the interesting thing around all of this is our belief that we're really good drivers, and then our skepticism of technology's ability to deal with these things as well. And it is a real tension, and it comes back to your point, Rory, about our trust in this, and also what it means for the motor insurers. And again, I come back to the point that in aggregate, the UK motor industry has not made a profit for the last 9 years, I think it is. Some people far more knowledgeable than me have estimated that it's as high as the last 30 years. So we need some shake-up, but it'll be interesting, as you said. The ABI can exert some power on this as well. So it's going to play out in an interesting way.
I think it's also interesting to see some stats, because every time a Tesla autonomous version crashes, it hits the news. But every time a human crashes, it's just another human, right? It'll be interesting to see, statistically, do they crash more often or less often than humans? Because either, I'm sure they have some very valid concerns, but also it is an industry that's not very well known to be keeping up at pace with innovation. So is it they're holding us back? Because then you can look at, for example, Tesla. They're actually looking to open up and create their own insurance company in China, because they're not seeing a partner that is able to keep up. So I'm sure there are arguments, on both sides, but I'll be really curious to see statistically, do autonomous vehicles crash more or less often than humans?
Because, ultimately, that's why my wonder is really around that pathway to testing. Because if insurers say not for the time being, my belief is to remain relevant, they have to cooperate too. And they have to say, okay, here is what we would need. Here is the pathway to testing, and join in the definition of that. Because if they don't, they could easily find themselves someone going around them, like Tesla creating their own insurance. And at that point, the veto right of insurers becomes less important. So exactly. Yeah, that was my wonder really around that sort of tension between pressing the stop button when you need to, but also cooperating to make sure that those changes are encouraged.
Exactly. It's about, getting informed, data, and that is, can they plug it into all these, systems that are available in all those cars who are driving autonomously, so they can make those informed decisions. But yeah, some very interesting topics, gentlemen. So thank you for bringing them up. If you've got some views that you want to talk about on our show about what you found interesting in the news or what made you wonder, we'd love to hear it. The more, the better. So we're going to have, continuously new episodes over the weeks to come. We've got two new guests coming next week, which will bring their perspective over from Canada. But for now, we're going to wish you all a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and looking forward to catching up with you guys next week. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.